Okay, today is Tuesday, May 12th, and we are going to look at circumference, 11.2, circumference and arc length, okay? And our objective is to find the circumference of a circle and then the length of the circular arc. Okay, and we're going to identify a couple of these, and it's something we've been already working with. In the last section, we looked at arcs and their relations to different angles that we have, whether it be central angles or inscribed angles. The circumference is going to be the distance around the circle. Okay, it's almost like if you had the distance around a square, a rectangle, that would be the perimeter. Circumference is the distance around the circle. And sometimes you see the formula for circumference as pi times diameter. Okay, remember, if you're looking at a circle, okay, we have the center here. Circumference is all the way around. This would be your radius. All the way over would be your diameter. Okay, so we see it written two ways. Circumference is either pi times diameter, or circumference equals 2 times pi r, which just doubles the radius. It's really giving you the same thing, but there are two ways that you're going to, you know, occasionally you'll see the formula written both ways. Okay. Okay, first thing we're going to do is we're going to try and find the circumference, because that's going to be a big part of what we're doing when we're trying to find arc length. Okay, a lot of times we first have to find the circumference. Okay, so if we look at the first one, and we have a radius of 6 centimeters, I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to raise this up a little bit. Okay, they give us the radius, so we could, if we wanted to, double that and make that the diameter, but they just gave us the radius, so we're just going to make this circumference equals 2 pi r. Again, we could use either one, but since they're giving us the radius, we'll use that. You're going to end up getting the circumference equals 2 times pi times 6, okay? And we're going to end up getting an answer of circumference equals 12 pi. A lot of times you'll see your answer written either in terms of pi, okay, or we could multiply this out. Remember, pi is 3.14, okay, and more after that. If you do it in your calculator, it'll take it out to more decimal places. So if we do this, 12 times the 3.14, I'm just going to estimate 12 times pi, which is 3.14, pi 3.14, we're going to end up getting a circumference of 37.68. And that's going to be centimeters. Remember, circumference is distance around. It's not going to be like area where it's square. This is just going to be in centimeters. So it would either be 37.68 centimeters, or sometimes you'll see it in version of pi, 12 pi. Either one of those answers a lot of times will work. Okay. Now here they give us the diameter. So here we're going to use the formula for circumference equals pi times diameter. Circumference is going to equal pi times 15. So we're going to end up getting circumference equals 15 pi. I just reversed that. And then if we want to get an exact figure, we're going to get 15 times the 3.14. And that's going to give us a circumference of 47.12 inches. Okay? So that's basically how we're finding circumference. Again, this is something obviously you've seen before. Okay, now they're going to kind of work a little bit reverse. They want you to find the radius of a circle with circumference of 31 meters. So whenever we see something like this, we just basically want to write our formula and fill in what we have, and we're going to solve the equation. So let's bring this up here. So they want to know the radius of a circle with a circumference of 31 meters. So we're going to have our formula, circumference equals 2 pi r, okay? And they give us that the circumference is 31 meters equals 2 times pi which again is 3.14 times r, okay? Now I just multiply out what I have, and I'm going to end up getting 31 equals 6.28 r. All I did was I multiplied the 2 times the 3.14, okay? And this gave me the 6.28 times r, okay? That's my variable. All I do here now is do 6.28 divided by 6.28. This cancels, okay? And the 31 divided by the 6.28 is going to give me a radius of roughly 4.93. Whenever we estimate, we put something like that, a little squiggly on top of a squiggly, for lack of a better way of calling it. So our radius, which is what we wanted to find, and that's 4.93 would be our radius. Okay? And we rounded it to 2 decimal places. Okay, so again, anytime they want you to find something, write your formula, write in what you have, and then solve for what your unknown is. And a big mistake you don't want to make here, sometimes people see pi, they think of that as a variable. No, pi is an actual value. It's 3.14, so we want to put that value in there. Okay? Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to find the arc length. Okay, we're going to find the arc length. And all the arc length is, it's a part of the circumference. Okay, so just to pull away here, if we had a circle right here, and they had something like this, and they wanted you to find the arc length, that would be the length from here to here, okay, of that sector. You would have an arc length, would go from here to here. And that's what we're going to find in this section. We're going to find the arc length. And the arc length, again, is just a portion of what the whole circumference is. It's a part of it. Almost, you could say a fractional part. And the way we're going to find our arc length is we're going to use a formula, okay? And this formula that we have right here is going to be arc length over circumference, which we know how to get because we just have done that, okay? Equals arc measure over 360, okay? So we know the arc measure, okay? That's going to be the same as what the angle is, the central angle is right here, okay? So our corollary is in a circle, the ratio of the length of a given arc to the circumference is equal to the ratio of the measure of the arc to 360. A lot of words, but simply put, this is the formula we're going to use. Arc length over circumference equals arc measure over 360. Okay, and I like to write that out every time we do it, so we keep ourselves organized, keep ourselves on track. Okay, we're going to zoom this out, and when we look at A, we write our formula, arc length over circumference is going to equal arc measure over 360. Okay, so arc length, down here, arc length over circumference equals arc measure over 360, okay? A degree right there. Okay, now, to find our arc length is what we're going to have to find, okay? So we can make that our unknown. So in this situation, make that your x, arc length. Our circumference, we have to find that, okay? And we know how to find the circumference if we're given, this is your radius right here. Our circumference is going to be 2 pi r. Okay, that's going to equal our circumference. So in this case, okay, we're going to say that 2 times pi times 5 equals our circumference. 10 pi equals our circumference. Okay, 10 pi is going to equal our circumference. And if we multiply 10 times the 3.14, I'm just using 3.14. We're going to get 31.4. Okay. If you use the pi button in here, sometimes that'll carry it out even more. So you might get an answer that's not exactly what we get here, but close to it, which is fine. Okay. And our arc measure. So we know that our arc length is what we're looking for. Our circumference, 10 pi, 10 times 3.14 is going to equal 31.4 for our circumference. So I just put that right here. Okay, my circumference went right there underneath. Okay, then I need my arc measure. My arc measure is just going to be what my central angle is. Your central angle equals what your arc measure is. So my arc measure is going to be 50 over 360. 360 is our given. We always have that in there. Okay? Now, we've set up a proportion. Everybody knows what we have to do with the proportion. We just cross multiply. Okay? So 360 times x is going to equal your 31.4 times 50. Okay, so 360x is going to equal 1570. Okay, so 360x, I'm just going to pull this right up here. 360x equals 1570. Okay, that was just 31. I just cross multiplied. It's 31.4 times 50. Now I'm going to divide by 360, and I'm going to end up getting an estimate here of my arc length at 4.36. So roughly 4.36 is my arc length, and I'm talking 4.36. They don't give any units, so just talking units. So my arc length, what we need to define, that's the length from here, from A to B. The length from A to B is going to be 4.36 units. Okay, so that's what we found right there. Okay. Okay, let's look at B. B, we're going to do the same thing. Okay, and I think we'll do B. E is really doing the same thing over again. And again, I'll have some examples done on your worksheet. Okay. So for B, what we wanted to do was find, we were going to do the same formula, arc length over circumference equals arc measure over 360. Okay? So, arc length, what we're trying to find here, okay, so our arc length is going to end up being labeled as x. So that's going to be our x. The circumference is just going to be 2 pi r, so it's going to be circumference, I'll do this up here, is 2 pi times 7. Okay, 7 is your radius. So our circumference is going to equal 14 pi. Okay, or 14 times 3.14. Okay, and that's going to give us a circumference of 43.96. Our circumference equals 43.96. That's the entire distance around. So we're going to put that down here. 43.96. Okay? Our arc measure, which is the same as our central angle, is going to be 50 degrees. And we're going to put that over 360 because our 360 is right in this formula here. Okay, so everything lines up there. We're going to do 50. We set up the proportion. We all know the proportion. We just cross multiply. Okay, 50 times 43.96 is going to give us 2,198. Okay, so 360x equals 2,198. We divide through by 360, divide through by 360, and x is going to end up equaling we get a decimal here, it's going to be 6.11. Okay, roughly 6.11 units is going to be what our length of our arc is, and that was what we were trying to find. Okay, again, C is pretty much the same thing as what we've been doing here, and I'm going to end up. I'll give you, like I said, I'll give you some examples. I'll do some examples on the worksheet too. Okay, let's go down to example number 4. Now for 4, they want you to find the circumference. Give me 1 second here. Or at least the first one for A. We're going to find our circumference. So they give you the arc length in this situation. I'm actually going to make this a little bit smaller, just to give us some room up here. Okay, for this one, they want you to find the circumference, and we know our formula is arc length over circumference equals arc measure over 360. And I think your biggest thing here is identifying everything properly. Okay? First of all, the circumference is what we're trying to find. So that's going to end up being our x, or unknown. Okay? Our arc length is right here, this unit right out here. This is our arc length. That's what we were finding before. Now they give us the arc length. So our arc length is going to be 3.82. Okay? Our arc measure is the same as the central angle. That's going to be 60 degrees. And again, our 360 is always on the bottom. Once we get it here, we all know how to set up, with the proportion being set up, we all know that we have to multiply this. Okay, so we're going to get 3.82, and we're going to get 60x equals 3.82 times 360. And that's going to be 1375, 1,375.2, and then we divide that by 60. Okay, so our circumference is going to end up being, hold on 1 second, 1375. Our circumference in this situation is going to end up being 22.92. And our x is our circumference. So, the arc length was 3.82. The circumference, which is the entire distance around, is going to be 22.92. Okay? And again, another thing I always like to tell you about is to make sure you get sensible answers. Okay? If somehow, you got an answer of, say, 6, and this was 3.82, you did something wrong. But if you look at this as 3.82, a little under 4, it would make sense the whole thing is going to be 22.92. So you have a reasonable answer there. Okay? But again, write your formula and then write in, if you don't, right above the picture, you see they ask you to find the circumference. So that's how we knew. Okay. Okay. And that was for example 3. I'm sorry, example 4, that was for A. Okay. Okay. And then for 5, or for 4B, they're going to ask you to find the arc measure. Okay. So the arc measure, we're going to write our formula, and let's see what we have. Okay. Our formula is arc length over circumference equals arc measure over 360. Okay? All right. Well, we know we're always going to have the 360 on the bottom. That's just a given in the formula. Okay, let's see what else we have. And they ask you for the arc measure. I'm going to lower this a little bit so we can see that. This is the arc measure. So that would be the same as what this angle measurement is here. All the other ones we were given that, but we're not given that on this one. Okay, your arc measure is the same as what the central angle is right here. Okay? So your arc length is that number that we have outside here. Okay, so your arc length is going to be 18. Okay. Your circumference we have to find. Circumference equals 2 pi r. Okay, our radius is 7.4, so our circumference equals 2 times 3.14 times our r, which is 7.64. Okay, so let's get our circumference here, and you're going to end up getting you're going to get a circumference of 47.98. Okay, so your circumference is going to be 47.98. We could just round that off. Make that equals 47.98. I'm going to round that to 48 just to make life a little bit easier. The arc measure, which is the same as my central angle, that's what we're trying to find here. That's what we don't know. So we'll make that our x. Now that we have it set up, all we do is cross multiplication. Okay, we've got our 18 times the 360. Okay, 18 times the 360 is going to give you 6,480. Okay, so we have 48x equals 18 is 360, and that's going to give us 6,480. 48x, and we divide that through. Okay, we do our 6,480 divided by 48, cancels out on this side, which was done on the last one, divided by 48, and we're going to get 135. So our arc measure, and that's the same as the central angle, is going to be 135, and that's always in degrees. So our arc measure is 135. Okay? Okay, so that's it for 11.2. Okay? Circumference and arc length. And this, again, would have been Tuesday, May 12th.